Companion, and I'm just going to be walking through a pretty intensive or in-depth demo about some of the core features that this tool has or offers. Um, Essentially, the core goal of Code Companion is to try to get generative AI, the new generative AI foundational models such as GPT-4, um, within the classroom to help create a more personalized educational experience for both students, and make it easier to create that experience for teachers. Um, so that's the core goal of this platform. And currently this was built out pretty quickly, and we're working closely with the few teachers to really enhance the tool and make it even better, for it to actually provide strong utility for both students and teachers in the classroom. Um, so I want to just start with so there's two versions here, right? So we have the public facing version right now where, you know, um, this is pretty much what you see when you go on the site. You sort of see this landing page. I just logged out, so you guys sort of see the view that you would see if you were to visit this. Um, and in here, I want to start with just we have the tutor to try out publicly for free, right? So, this is 100% free. All you need to do is sign up with, say, your Gmail. Um, and so what we have here is we have two sets of tutors, right? We have our, default where, this is very similar to a ChatGPT interface where you could access program. Right now, we're really focused on programming, and computer science, introductory computer science courses. Um, and so here you could, ask it basic programming questions as a student, um, and sort of see what responses or whatever help you need. And we also have our inbuilt code editor system. So here, if you're a student working on, say, a question or code, say in VS Code, for example, you could copy paste that directly in here, and then just write your question here and then interact with the programming assistant. So I want to sort of demonstrate how that sort of looks like. So the first thing we'll just do is we'll just create a quick account. Um, this is very simple. All you need to do is just sign up with your Gmail. Um, and once you complete that, you're going to be redirected back to the site. And here you're going to be redirected to, your dashboard. This is where all your code from the code editor is going to be saved. And so if I were to go back, let's just say I don't really have a particular exercise in mind. I could come through here and say I'm just starting off with learning Python. I've added 20, 30 exercises, beginner exercises in Python, to help, make that process easier. So let's just click this one. This is a random exercise, and it's the longest word finder. And so the question is, given a list of words, use a for loop to find and print the longest word in the list. So it's a pretty basic question, but it's a good problem to help students learn, for loops and determining lengths of strings or words. So let's define a basic word here, right? So let's just say word one. And so we have that. And let's just, let's just do this, right? I know how to get the length of the word. Um, and let's just run this. So cool, we're getting the length of each word. Um, and this is like a live interpreter essentially within the, the browser. But now let's just say I don't know what to do from here. So, and one of the things we just got to bear in mind is, since we're running this through a GPT's API, it'll take about 10 to 15 seconds. We are working on improving that. We also have some cool test cases here which sort of show you what we anticipate or expect the answer to be. And so now GPT, the key thing here is, this is for students, this is a tutor. It's a personalized tutor. That's the goal of this. It's not going to give the answer. You know, the point is to actually avoid that because we want to actually help students learn, or in other words, understand the concepts and not just simply say go on ChatGPT and copy paste this question and get the answer and submit it. But doing that, they don't learn anything. Um, so that's one of the core purposes of this is to try to potentially integrate this in the classroom where it could be used in a positive manner. Or in other words, used in a manner where it could help enhance a student's understanding rather than serving a sort of shortcut medium to like, just submit their homework. But anyway, so we have this where the tutor pretty much says, right now it prints each word, length of the word. Now try to think in this direction. The longest word will have the highest length. So you need to compare every word length with the currently known highest word. You can consider using an extra variable to keep track. And that's a good response. Like this is one I would anticipate a good tutor would give. Something where they're not going to give you the answer, but um, they're going to guide you in the direction, but they're going to force you to think on your own. So in this case, let's just say, since we're trying to find the longest word length, we'll set that to 0, and then we'll find longest word. And so let's just finish off this question, right? So if length of C is greater than the longest word length, then we set that. And we should also set that. So this should work. And let's just see, right? So the longest word okay, cool. The longest word is word 1, and I could just print the corresponding length, and that would be the longest word length. Cool. So now, one of the cool things about this is like, let's just press submit. And this is where this would help teachers a lot. I mean, this already will help teachers. This is now teachers can give assignments and students have access to essentially their own personalized tutor, which they can ask questions to. So the teacher doesn't always need to be there for the student because the teachers themselves are obviously very busy as well. But when you have submit, one of the goals of the teacher is to obviously determine if the solution's right, but also provide feedback on the code, right? Maybe there's a more optimal, in this case, maybe there's a more efficient way to solve this problem, or more Pythonic way to solve this problem. Let's say where we could write shorter or more understandable code, or maybe the variable names are not defined, to the best that they can be. So that's also part of the teacher's job, and that's one way where this tool helps a lot, because if a student submits this, you know, say in typical leak code, it's just going to test the test cases and be like, you're right or you're not right. In this case, you have the fuzzy sort of feedback, or what a teacher would provide, where it says, okay, so this is what we submitted. This is the question that we give back when we submit to the GPT, and then pretty much comes back with saying, cool, your code looks good and solves a problem. Great job. But now notice that it provides further improvements, right? So it says, first of all, the variable. It's generally a good idea to use variable names that describe the variable represents a variable that actually represents what your code is trying to do. So in this case, it actually gives you some hints, like word or current word might be a better choice than say C, and I agree with that. And so consider what happens when there are multiple words of the same maximum length. Current code will only print one of them. This is a very good call, because I could have word 1 or another word in here that's 8 characters as well. Now what ends up happening? So um, that's another great call out. And I'm not going to continue with this question because that's not the point, but you can see how a student can continue with this question, leveraging help from the tutor. So that's one way in which this tool could provide help. And there's a lot more exercises here, and the reason for these exercises is obviously to help students learn, if they're starting off with programming, but also it's a good thing to just try out if you're just curious on how this works and you want to use it and you want to see some feedback and you don't have any questions that you're working on. Just come in here and just click on any one random one of these, um, and just try it. I also have a couple of videos. The cool thing is this code editor is not limited to just the exercises we have on the site. So I could come in here, say I'm working on a leak code problem. I could come in here, I could copy paste the question in here, write the code that I have, ask whatever questions I have to the tutor, and he'll provide help. Or if I could ask submit, and I could also ask like, given leak code, the goal is sometimes the naive solutions are easier to come up with, but the hard part is actually coming up with the most efficient solution. That's where something like this could actually help to guide the person in the right direction without necessarily giving them the answer. Uh, so that's that. And then we also have this general interface where students just come here and literally ask any sort of questions that they have to help them learn. So for example, can you explain the concept of indexing a string with a for loop? We went through a few examples in class, but I still don't understand it. So, see, the cool thing about this is, you know, a student has access to pretty much asking questions to a quote unquote expert, and I do emphasize quotes there, but just go along with the analogy, pretty much anytime they want. And this, of course, will help teachers as well because a teacher's goal in the class, they have to cover a lot of concepts and they have an hour, 45, 50 minutes. But at the same time, they have to answer students' questions and try to make the material as engaging as possible. But that could be hard with such a short period of time. Um, so of course, there's going to be kids in the class who won't fully grasp what you're teaching. That's a common problem. When they come home, they can leverage this. This is something they can leverage to essentially maybe get a new way of understanding a concept or further examples. So, that's the point of this. You have the code editor, which sort of serves as them going through the exercises and having the tutor there with them at every step to help debug their code or so on and so forth. But you also have this, which, they could use to, in this case, explain a concept, but they could also use this to generate more questions. So like, for example, in this case, I wanted to get the concept of indexing a string with the for loop. There you go. Think of a string as a sequence of characters, right? Each character in that sequence has a position, right? Notice it's really trying to talk with the student just like a tutor would, just like each of your students. And notice it provides like a realistic example of something you might already know, right? Um, and so now it explains the concept of for loop, and now you can combine, and then it gives you another example, and say and then it always follows up, or it always tries to follow up just like a tutor would with a follow-up question for you. So if you refer to the positions of the characters in the string, you could introduce indexing. To give this a try, maybe think of this small tile. How do you print out each character of the string along with this index? And let's just go along with this for a sec. Would I need to use range here? Right? Because say I was introduced to the range concept, because that's probably what you would want to use here. Cool. Now, yeah, you're on the right track. The range function for this time makes it easier, which is now remember. Can you remember how range function generates a sequence and how it could be helpful? And you could ask this examples for, to give you examples of utilizing this if you need help, so on and so forth. And essentially the point of this is to really help, deepen your understanding or get an understanding of the material that you're presented. So that's sort of like this view right here that we have publicly available, free. It's completely free. Start leveraging this. You could do it yourself for, say, your homework or whatever. If you want to try the inbox exercises or, your own exercises, they'll all be saved in and accessed in your code tab. So that's cool. Now I want to quickly demo the teacher administration tool, or rather, sorry, the tool that's more intended for teachers. And this part of the tool is going to be private. So or rather, sorry, it's in private beta because we're testing this right now and enhancing this with teachers at the moment. So let me just log in with a sort of test account. So this is what the teacher gets to see, right? Teachers, their goal is obviously to provide their students with the best education possible for each of them. But one of the many challenges they face is dealing with a lot of administrative or essentially work that has next to nothing to do with actual teaching. So a lot of emails, feedback and marking, a lot of lesson plan generation, ways of explaining concepts in different ways. It's very hard, to do all of this, while manage one's personal life and actually manage all the other aspects that comes with teaching, the administrative work, and to do this all in such a timely manner of where the lectures are 45, 50 minutes. This could be very challenging. So the goal of this is to actually help the teacher, and one of the ways, or actually the core way, is going to be the teacher is paired up with their own assistant. So same way the student has the tutor, um, the teacher has their own teaching assistant, where you could leverage this to generate a lesson plan, generate quizzes, practice homework, assignments, or other ways of explaining concepts that you just want inspiration. So let's just say my kids don't seem to grasp when to use a while loop versus a for loop. Um, can you please help explain this better? So, I mean, this is a real, like, this definitely would be a real problem, especially for a beginner program like who's just first introduced this. It can be tricky to know when to utilize one of these given, say, an arbitrary list of questions. Um, and say you noticed when you were explaining this, you were giving questions. This is something you come up to, and here it's really for you to maybe get inspiration about, like, hey, like, I didn't even think about this way of potentially explaining it. And I do apologize that this takes a bit of time. This is something we're going to work on. It takes 15 to 20 seconds to get the response. But there you go. So now you see the level of depth that is provided, right? So for loop, it provides what the definition is. And then imagine you want to print a for loop. It gives you an examples that you could tell your teacher. While loops is typically we use when we don't know how many times the loop needs to run. Only that it needs to keep running until certain conditions are met. And it gives you an exact example of that too, right? And then look, a fun way to remember is you can use a for loop when you know for sure. You can use a while loop while you're not sure how many times to loop. Um, so that's a cool analogy. Um, and so yeah, so this is a pretty cool way to explain it. That this might be something you could tell them. But let's just say, can you give me uh, examples so I can present them to my kids uh, in class tomorrow? Uh, so now we're asking it to generate examples. And I mean, just think about ways in which this could potentially make lesson plan generation a whole lot easier for you, but also, probably the quality of the actual lesson plan would be likely even better, um, given that you have sort of other assistant to help, provide you with new ways of explaining concepts or generating further inspiration that you necessarily did not think about originally. So, here's a few examples. This is pretty basic examples. There was a few in the previous response that came up as well. And then, we could do this. So this is good. We can ask it to generate more. We can also ask it to, generate a quiz of 5 questions, testing their knowledge, so on and so forth. So you get the point. You can also leverage this to, say generate emails, generate a quick email to students to remember to bring their so on and so forth, right? You can also use this to, generate quiz, generate thing, um, generate practice questions or assignments, so on and so forth. So really, the sky's the limit. It's constrained. Um, it's bounded by whatever you want it to do. So um, yeah, so this is really what the assistant or personal teaching assistant is for teachers. We also have this ability where, say you're teaching a CS class and you want them to utilize our inbuilt editor to complete their exercises, so on and so forth. You can invite your students directly on this platform, which I envision would be a nice thing, right? So just say John, student at gmail.com. The audio just cut off. So now there you go. John is now invited on this platform, and um, yeah, they're going to receive an email to sign them up. And what they're going to see on their end is essentially the questions that you've created along with the tutor. So they could access the tutor and then the playground. So everything you saw in the beginning of the video, they're going to have access to. Um, uh, and then they're going to have access to like the questions. So, you could say, question um, one and, find the max sum of a 2D list, and let's just say question one max sum of 2D list, and here we'll just give it input. We don't need these test cases. You can also leverage the tool GPT to actually generate test cases for you. um, you know in this case, this is the format that we sort of have for, and in this case the max sum will be 15, right? So cool. This question is here, it's created. And now on a student view, they're going to be able to see um, this question. And the cool thing about this is we're obviously have student performance and a lot of like AI features, like sort of analyzing the data of students, so you could understand on each student level, what concepts they're grasping, what they're not grasping, what they're struggling with, and how you can help. Um, and what you also see is like, I want to just show you the student version as well, right? And this is also, it's in private at the moment, but um, if we were to go to this is what a student will see when they come on, when they get the email link. If this was like an actual email, they would have got this email. This would be the link. Then they'll be able to come in here and, let's just quickly make a account. And that's it. They'll now be able to, see their account. And right here, right, they have the question that you just created. And so, once this loads, it's the exact same playground editor that we saw previously that they have access to now, where for this particular questions and also all the other questions, along with this exact thing that we saw previously, which is like, that the code, like their personal programming tutor, they can have conversations with and just ask whatever they really want to ask. So it's a pretty basic view for students where they really just, the core of it is they see the questions that you created or you've assigned to them. They could do this directly in this platform and they have access to the tutor to help them along the way. And again, they can ask questions just like before. Cool thing about this is I just want to quickly show something. So let's just say this is the test case that we had, right? This is the test case that you created. This is what they see here. Now, let me just quickly go through, I'm going to just write some okay, and then if s is greater than max sum, max sum equals goes to s. Okay, cool. So we got the max sum. I just want to submit this, and the reason why I did this is, again, this you've probably already seen, but um, so it might be a bit redundant, but I want to submit this. I want to wait just to get the answer because I want to show you what you get to see on the teacher's end, for the students. So this is a real thing, right? Okay, so cool, you got the feedback, great. Um, Now let me go back to the teacher's view. Um, So if I go back to your students, first of all, it'll say this student's registered, so John is now registered. I also say that like he sent one message and he's worked on one code file, um, right? Um, so if I click him, I can actually see exactly what message he sent. And if I clicked it, I could see the code that he's actually written, and pretty much get his view of the playground that he gets to see, um, on my end. So I get to see exactly what he's typing and exactly what questions he's asking, and exactly how his code looks and works. Um, and you obviously get the GPT's response as well. So this would be a nice way to track. Are your students trying to cheat or game the system? The prompt is really well designed, so it avoids all that. If a student directly asks for the answer, the prompt is designed such that it's not going to give it. That's obviously not the point of this tool. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much the core gist of this. As you guys probably imagine, this is really just the start. So this is how it works right now with the basic functionality, but this is obviously going to improve as we work with more teachers. If you are a teacher or if you are a student who's interested, feel free to reach out. Email is at rahul@codecompanion.app. Speak directly with me, right? It's just me working on this. It's not like some large team or anything. Um, so, I'm very interested in this problem, obviously. So feel free to reach out. This is my email. I'm happy to meet up, set up a meeting, whatever it is. Um, and if you also want to try this out, feel free to just go on the site and just try it out if you want to experience it from like primarily a student's lens. Um, just literally go on the site and sign up with your Gmail account, and you have access to our exercises. You have access to everything. It's completely free. Um, and yeah, and if you want to speak more with me directly, if you don't want to say email me, you can just click that button right there, and it'll take you to uh, this calendar where you could book a time. So thank you very much for watching, and